These are just some glimpses of the unrest, the chaos, and the savagery and the slaughter that have raged on for the past 27 months. In many Syrian towns, lawlessness has become the norm. When government forces aren't present, Muslims have been known to rob churches and kidnap, rape, or even kill Christian women. Innocent bystanders simply making trips to the store have been gunned down. Curfews have done little to make anyone feel safer or less fearful, so the Christian community simply bands together and prays. Hundreds of these Christian residents have watched their lives and their very freedoms slip away right before their eyes. Homs, a city which has been occupied by both government and rebel forces for weeks, is now alone the site of more than 1,500 violent deaths. As the Arab Spring continues to rage throughout Syria, thousands more people have lost their lives in a movement that seeks to strip President Assad's regime of its power. And as Islamic protesters clash with government forces, Christians have become hopelessly tangled in the crossfire. Some fear that the Iraq scenario of increased levels of sectarian attacks and corresponding flight of Christians could be replicated in Syria, as seen in this first-hand look in a Syrian refugee camp outside Damascus.
دائما شبابات الانقماء الودي تخير وداخلنا خمية هل اليوم التوديته وخمية الأم تديه عين إيوالة بخيرة وبدمنا خمية الدائما دي.
The strategic and humanitarian cost of the conflict in Syria continue to rise, not just for Syrians, but also for vital U.S. interests. Chemical weapons have likely been used by President Assad's regime against civilians, and more than 70,000 people have been slaughtered. Iran and its proxy Hezbollah are building a network of militias inside Syria. A staggering 5 million Syrians have been displaced from their homes. Meanwhile, cross-border spillover threatens the security and stability of America's allies and partners Israel, Jordan, Turkey, Iraq, and Lebanon. The situation in Syria is complex and there are no ideal options, but the basic choice we face is not complicated. Do the cost of inaction outweigh the cost of action? Will Christians in Syria be persecuted by Muslim extremists and forced to migrate after the fall of President Assad, as was the case with Iraqi Christians after the fall of Saddam Hussein? What can America do today to head off this impending humanitarian crisis against the Syrian Christians? Today, the Insider exclusive investigative news team goes behind the headlines in Syria, a country and people in crisis. To visit with a dedicated American, Drake Shunneson, who is a frontline activist struggling to help countless Syrian American families here in the U.S. to expedite family-based visas covered under the U.S. government's visa program known as Family Reunification. Even though the U.S. government's visa program has a backlog of literally millions of individuals waiting on a visa to come to the United States. And since America has established a worldwide limit on the number of visas, thousands of those who are qualified to immigrate to the U.S. and are now still waiting are doomed to die in Syria because of our broken immigration system. Within this worldwide limit, there are also preference categories such that unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens will get their visa number called up before married sons and daughters and brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens. As you can imagine, this causes a huge delay when an individual may be called up for a visa. As of February 9th, 2013, for someone to get a visa that is the married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, they must have applied for a visa before January 15th, 2005 as an F2B category. That's an 8-year wait so far and counting. Drake will share with the Insider Exclusive today his endless frustrations that he's encountered in dealing with the U.S. State Department and the U.S. government to try to help save the lives of these persecuted Syrian Christians who are still trapped in Syria. These Syrian Christians have been abandoned by their own country, the U.S. government, and the international community. They have lost hope, and if history repeats itself, will likely face another massacre soon. What's even more horrific about this situation is that many of them could have been saved if the U.S. Family Reunification Visa Program worked, or if the U.S. government wasn't willingly ignoring their cries for help and would establish for them a special refugee status. The Insider Exclusive Investigative TV series is asking America's help now to have the State Department grant these minority Syrian Christians special refugee status to get out of Syria now before it's too late. To get them out of Syria and past the rebel refugee camps in Turkey so that they will no longer be slaughtered and persecuted because of their Christian beliefs. As Drake has stated repeatedly, we are blessed in this country to have freedom of religion, yet these people are being tortured for wearing a cross around their neck. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Chicago, Illinois. It is my great pleasure to introduce Drake Shunneson to the show. Welcome to the show, Drake.
Thank you.
Tell our audience a little bit about your law practice. What type of law do you practice?
Well, I'm a general practice civil litigation attorney. I mainly focus on immigration, personal injury, and any civil matter that people might have issues with. And sometimes I'll do some bankruptcies.
Today we are here because of the crisis that's going on in Syria. And you are a very strong advocate for what now?
Christian in Syria, particularly with my family's connection to the same. My wife is a Syrian, which is a Christian community in Syria.
Okay. Tell our audience a little bit about what's going on with the Christians in Syria right now.
Well, they're sort of stuck in the middle between the Assad regime, which is an Islamist regime, and the rebels, which are also predominantly Islamist.
Right.
And they have their own cultural identity, and a lot of it revolves around churches. And they're just a small community, mainly along the Turkey-Syria border,
right.
And they're just stuck in the middle between these warring factions. And a lot of them would like to immigrate to the United States, but they just can't.
Right. The insurgents, the rebels, associate them with the Assad regime, primarily because President Assad gave them the opportunity to practice their faith as he's president, correct?
Yes.
And so they associate the Syrians with President Assad as if they were allies when they're really not, are they?
Yes. I mean,
and they're killing them now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So your objective right now and your main goal with this TV show is to find a way through immigration status today to bring them here to the United States. What are the difficulties you're encountering?
Well, some of the difficulties are that, in Chicago itself, which is predominantly where I practice, there's a huge Assyrian community,
yeah.
And they have family members over in Syria. So what they'll do is they'll apply for a visa through the Family Reunification Act of the immigration laws. However, the reunification laws have priority dates, and what that means is that they would have had to have applied for a lot of these visas almost a decade ago. So the war only started 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So almost nobody can apply right now and immigrate through the reunification laws, and they're stuck. Some of the other issues I've had is I wanted to get them what's called special refugee status. I have made contact with several big law firms, and I've sort of partnered up with some power players and the East Coast, and they were making phone calls to the State Department. I was told that they made it really far in the State Department and in the White House in some cases, but the response that we got back was no. I mean, they just weren't going to give them special refugee status.
But this whole show is about people who are dying today, aren't they?
Yes,
They
they are.
need, the U.S. State Department really needs to expedite some sort of preferential treatment for these Syrian Christians who are caught in the middle, right?
Yes, and I mean, a lot of the problem is a lot of these people, I mean, I don't know how many because, I don't have access to that data, but I would say hundreds, thousands, maybe even tens of thousands already have visa applications pending and they qualify.
Right.
So they could be here today if they would just, take this into consideration, but the law is just flat. It just says your priority date is then, that's it. So they just can't do it. So if they could just give them this special refugee status to come over, they could. But I mean, they're starving. They're being attacked by rebels. The government has attacked, one of their churches. So they're really stuck in the middle in a bad situation. And they just, a lot of these people just want out.
Today we have with us two people who are very close to you, who we are going to protect their identity, who are going to tell our audience a little bit of what's going on with their families in Syria. So we're going to bring them on right now.
Okay.
Today, we are very fortunate to have on our show two Syrian Christians whose identity is being protected to protect their families in Syria. They're going to tell us their firsthand experience of what's going on in their country. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell our audience what's going on with your families in Syria right now.
They live very difficult life, danger life. They have shorts of food, water. They don't have no jobs. They have little kids. When they get sick, there's no doctors. When they go to the city to buy food or water, and they don't expect to come back home because the other people, they try to kidnap them, to rob them, and to kill them.
Why are they being persecuted by the rebels?
Well, they're being persecuted mostly by the rebels because they are Assyrians, they're Christians, and they are a minority. The Assyrian Christians are actually caught in the middle between the Assad regime and the rebels because we have no allegiance to either side. And it makes it difficult because if you get caught by somebody from the government, you have to play the role that you are an Assad supporter. And if you get caught by a rebel, you have to pretend that you're on their side too. So depending on who you run into, you have to be able to think on your feet or you'll be kidnapped or killed.
Right. They're innocent bystanders, basically, because they've been allowed to practice Christianity under the Assad regime. Therefore, the rebels believe that they are associated with Assad, right?
Correct.
And that really isn't the case at all. Now, today we are here because we are hoping by this show that America, as well as the State Department, grants a special refugee status for these folks who are your relatives, your family, who have every right to come to the United States because their paperwork has already been processed, but there are serious delays and some of these people will die as a result of these delays. What would you say to the State Department, to the President of the United States, to help expedite this situation?
Just to think about these people, they've done everything correctly. They've followed all of the paperwork process. They haven't done anything to try to legally come to this country. The only thing left for these particular family members for us are they got married and that delayed their paperwork. Unfortunately, the law states that if you are married, it takes twice as long to be able to immigrate to the United States. So our relatives who did not get married are here, and those who made the choice to get married and have children are stuck there, and now they are just in limbo waiting and trying to not get killed while there's a civil war going on in Syria.
But there's special circumstances now. I mean, people are being killed.
Correct.
There's a war raging in Syria right now.
Absolutely. Just for them to go out and get basic food and necessities, they're starving. There's people on both sides robbing them and taking their livestock, and they're malnourished, and villages are starving to death right now, and they're waiting for somebody to reach out and do something to help them.
Now, you have spoken to some of your family members there, correct? On the telephone?
Yes.
What are they telling you? Their personal experiences?
Their personal experiences,
Lost his home.
yeah, one of my cousins was an English teacher for the government, actually, several years ago, and up until this war started happening, he did that. And then a couple of months ago, when things got really bad, he lost his home and had to just leave everything behind. He had built a brand new home, spent thousands of dollars, and now had to move in with his brother in a village to get away from the fighting. And there's 13 people living in, maybe a one-bedroom home right now.
No income coming into the house?
No income at all. Nobody's working.
Are you allowed to send money there? Will it get there? It does get there?
Here's the thing: we send, or our community, we send money as Western Union, but they say to us, don't send anymore, because when they go inside the Western Union, they know it's cash over there. A lot of people, they get killed over there, and they take the money. They get robbed and killed. So we don't know what to do now, how to send them money. It's very difficult.
How often can you speak with them on the phone?
It's hard. We try to as often as we can, or even through the internet, through Facebook, through emails, but electricity will go out, and sometimes there's days or even weeks where we don't hear from anybody. And we've got family in other countries as well, trying to reach out to them, and we'll amongst ourselves just talk to each other and say, hey, has anybody heard from so-and-so? And sometimes it's weeks or even a month, and we just hope for the best, and then eventually the power will come back on, and somebody will send us an email or try to make a phone call, and it'll go through.
In the remaining time that we have for you on this show, tell America exactly what you would like them to do.
Please, we need America's help, because they are Christian. They're very difficult to live over there, because the Christian, they don't have any help. Nobody helps them. They're a small amount, like 20%, 15% Christian over there. They have no help at all from another country. Only America, they can help them. Only United States, they have families here. We all work hard and we pay taxes like everybody else. And we need now help from America to help our families.
Right. Just to expedite what's already in place, correct?
Yes, I feel like we've forgotten about because the Christian minorities are such a minority, they're the forgotten people of Syria. We hear about the rebels, we hear about Assad, but it's the religious persecution that's happening to the Christians in that area. Everyone's forgetting about that, and there's nobody there to help them, and they're just caught in limbo to see what's going to happen. There's no victory for them, and America just needs to step up and do something to help that, because nobody else is fighting for these people. Everyone wants to arm the rebels or arm Assad, but that's not going to help the Christians who are just stuck there.
Caught in the middle. Well, we want to thank both of you for having the courage to come on our show, and we're sending that message out. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Drake, what would you say? We're on national TV right now. What do you want to say to the United States State Department, the President of the United States? What do you want to say to them to help save these Syrian Christians who are being killed right now?
I would just say, please just listen to them. I mean, all they want is somebody to hear them. And if they can do anything to just, even if it's just the people that already have visa applications pending, grant them their visas. Let them come and be reunified with their children,
Right.
their mothers, their brothers, their sisters, their uncles. I mean, just let them come. You've already got the law that says that they can come. Just let them come here. And if you find it in your heart to grant these people special refugee status, that would be tremendously helpful, just because the refugee camps are not anywhere anyone wants to be, especially a small Christian community and a sea of rebel and government forces.
Is there a precedent, I'm just curious, where the United States State Department has granted special refugee status to other groups?
Yes, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that's why it exists. I mean,
one comes to my mind because I'm a Vietnam veteran with the Vietnamese people after the war. They did grant them special status to come here, to immigrate here to the United States. And it was a very humanitarian and good thing for the State Department to do. And that's the reason we're doing this show. We'd like them to look seriously at doing the same thing with the Syrian Christians, right?
Yes.
All right. I want to thank you very much for being on our show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.